If you are looking forward to the Khamzat Chimaev vs Nate Diaz fight, then be sure to show this by smashing the like button.
Metro by T-Mobile's knockout coverage and unlimited data. With the scorecards now is Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. The judges score the contest 30-27, 30-27, and 29-28 for the winner by unanimous decision, Nate Diaz!
Thank you for joining me once again and welcome back to Keenan KTV. In today's video, let us go over the 5 reasons why Stockton Zone and Nate Diaz can defeat Khamzat or Chimaev. I will also be making another video talking about the 5 reasons why Chimaev wins, so be sure to like and subscribe to my channel with the bell notification turned on to stay notified for that video when it drops. And now with that being said, let us jump right into the first reason. Arguably the most important aspect in the game of Nate Diaz is not going to be his striking or his grappling. In reality, and really contrary to popular belief, the boxing ability of Nate Diaz or the Diaz brothers is significantly blown out of proportion, and I believe this is really the core of a myth that has been brewing since the very inception of the Diaz name. We always know that when Strikeforce was around and Nick Diaz was dominating, he was obviously putting in good work with his boxing, but over the years, how can you go ahead and step into the UFC and get outboxed by GSP, get outstruck by Carlos Condit, Anderson Silva, things of this nature? That is really just the thing about Nick Diaz himself, right? I believe that Nick Diaz is just overall a better fighter than his younger brother Nick, and obviously he is a former world champion with many title defenses under his belt. That is just the reality of the matter. Now, when it comes down to Nate Diaz, however, I really don't believe that the element of having great boxing is still applicable to this day. I believe that his last great boxing performance was against Michael Johnson, and that was terrific. He was really in shape, he had his abs showing, he had really great hand speed, good movement, good reaction time, but that fight is almost 6 years ago and at 155. So add on top the extra 15 pounds, all the age, all the wear and tear. I mean, he's already 37 years old. So coming really down to reality and rating all of his abilities for what they are truly, because he is far from the best boxer and far from the best grappler in the entire division. So the one element that truly sticks out is his stamina, and we can put in there his durability also. Stamina and durability, his ability to be in the fight for as long as it lasts. Now, why is it important against Chimaev? Well, obviously many people will say Chimaev against Burns, he got tired, he got dropped, he looked very, very vulnerable. Obviously, objectively speaking, that is what happened, but the causation behind it is very simply explained. When it comes down to actually fighting to his strengths, fighting smart, taking his time, Chimaev did not do any of that. Chimaev, unlike Khabib Nurmagomedov or Islam Makhachev, he is not as calm-minded, he's not as cold. He can really get himself riled up. I mean, even before he steps into the octagon, he's sprinting and jumping and he's really, really animated, he's yelling and screaming. He is more emotional than Khabib and Makhachev. So when an opportunity presents itself where the opponent is really tough and gritty and wants to have a dogfight with you, Chimaev just quickly complies with that and just is ready to throw down with you right away. And so he did overthrow, he did expose himself, he did leave himself vulnerable, he did give Gilbert Burns many kind of punching opportunities that he always takes advantage of, because Gilbert Burns is more so a defensive counterpuncher, just like the way that he was able to drop Damian Maia, just like he was able to drop Kamaru Usman and many other opponents that he had great success connecting on. It was always the opponent coming in on him. So when Chimaev just kept coming in on him with strictly boxing and really overcommitting and overthrowing and leaning in too much into the space of Gilbert Burns, it was simply a double collision by the time Burns threw a counter shot, and that is why he was able to get dropped. Against Nate Diaz, however, especially after that fight and after all the scrutiny and critique that he's gotten, he will, in my opinion, try to not fight that emotional, but if Nate Diaz just simply flips the bird on him, pushes him a couple of times at the press conferences, well, I guess we will see the same Chimaev show up once again, because you really cannot change the nature of a man when it is already developed. And so in that type of a fight, the longer the fight goes on, round number 3, 4, and 5, Chimaev may be getting tired, and that is exactly when Nate Diaz could be getting stronger. Let us move over to number 2, mental warfare. We know that many opponents of Chimaev simply got intimidated, were very timid, and they simply could not match the alpha energy and the really dominant and aggressive nature of his body language. Many of these guys just simply crumbled under the pressure even way before before the fight took place. When you try to do something like that to Nate Diaz, he doesn't take that very lightly. He is very alert of these body language tactics. He's very aware that when you try to little brother him, he doesn't like any of that. He tries to show that he's not somebody to be messed with, and he's done this at many face-offs, many press conferences against Clay Guida, against Donald Cerrone. He does not take this lightly at all. So he will not take that lightly against Chimaev, and that might be one tactic that Chimaev can look at and think to himself, maybe this is one area where I will not get my way. And how will he deal with that? I really want to see how that press conference, how that face-off, how them interacting with one another going into the fight will be like, because if it is something that Chimaev is not accustomed to, then maybe during the fight we will have another element of that mental toughness show in and cause massive hurdles for Chimaev like Gilbert Burns did during the fight. Moving over to number 3, experience. Many people seem to not realize this, but Nate Diaz is almost 10 years older than Khamzat Chimaev, and with that there's obviously a lot of experience that comes into play. And one thing that Khamzat Chimaev has not really seen is being able to take a lot of damage and then come back. Obviously he's had his fight with Burns, but when it comes down to Nate Diaz, he's had almost exclusively all his wins come by this manner. When he won the Ultimate Fighter, he got dropped and then he came back. Many rounds in the Ultimate Fighter, he got dropped, he got put on his back, he got ground and pounded, and then he came back with a submission. Against Melvin Gillard, he got dropped in the first opening 10 seconds and then came back with a submission. Against McGregor, he was really beat down in the first round and then he comes back in the second round and wins by a submission. Against Leon Edwards, he gets beat down all fight long, and then in the last 10 seconds or something, he was able to connect with a big 1-2 and stun and hurt Leon Edwards, possibly even could have finished him. And so there is this element of not being afraid of the pain, not being afraid of the fight, not being afraid of actually being beat down, because deep down inside, Nate Diaz is very hard to beat, mentally and physically obviously, because he's never really out of the fight, he never really gives up. And against Chimaev, he is exactly what Chimaev could struggle against. If Chimaev doesn't submit him right away or knock him out, then he's just always in his face, and how will he deal with that? I am really interested in seeing that take place. And experience comes in many forms, you know, playing possum, playing into the game of Chimaev, making him win a few positions, because obviously he's 37 years old, he cannot really beat him in every single position, so he's got to make sure that he beats him by the end of the fight by making Khamzat Chimaev throw everything that he has, show all of his skills, show all of his weaknesses, because I mean, it's easy to beat down an opponent for 5 rounds straight, but at some point you've actually just maximized your success rate, the manner at which you can beat your opponent down in. All of your tools, all of your skills, all of your entire arsenal has been exposed, and the only path from there is going downwards. If you can't finish him, then you've already shown everything. Then you're giving Nate Diaz data, you're giving him knowledge about all of your weaknesses, and slowly but surely he will creep his way in and connect with one big stunner, just like he did against Leon Edwards, just like he did against Conor McGregor, and just like many of his comeback submission victories throughout his career. Khamzat Chimaev cannot really sleep on Nate Diaz at any point of this fight. It can be really dangerous. Moving over to number 4, grappling. When it comes down to grappling, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu element of Nate Diaz's game is what really contributed to most of his finishes. Both Diaz brothers are established Cesar Gracie black belts, and on top of that added their boxing, so fundamentally they are grapplers. And Chimaev, I believe he's gonna have a very hard time controlling Nate Diaz in the middle of the octagon. So if he is not able to take him down and sit him up against the fence and control him in that manner, I believe that Nate Diaz will be coming in with the elbows, he's going to be setting up his butterfly guard, he's going to be very active because Nate Diaz fights off of his back. So if Chimaev can neutralize him, it can only be done up against the fence. And that is exactly where I believe Nate Diaz is going to be avoiding the fight. But against Gilbert Burns, Khamzat Chimaev self-admittedly said that he did not really want to engage that much in the grappling or in the guard of Gilbert Burns, so he stood up. Could we see something similar like this take place? If it does, this will play into the game of Nate Diaz without a question, because then the fight will get stood up again and the brawl potentially will continue to take place and the stamina of Khamzat Chimaev will just keep on plummeting. Moving over to our final reason, striking. Like I said, when it comes down to the Diaz brothers, especially Nate Diaz, I cannot really say that he has the best boxing in MMA. I can't even say that he has a top 5 or top 10 best boxing in both lightweight and welterweight. I really cannot give him that status. But what he does have is ability to come forward, take pressure, and give pressure. How will Khamzat Chimaev deal with the pressure? How will he deal with the mental pressure? How will he deal with Nate Diaz always being there, pulling back and try to come back with a 1-2? How will the chin of Khamzat Chimaev hold up when Nate Diaz can potentially crack him with a beautiful, powerful left straight down the pipe? These are all questions that are left to be answered. However, I do believe that throughout the entire fight, Khamzat Chimaev will be engaging in a lot more brawls and scrambles or in the pocket exchanges. Leon Edwards is a complete opposite to him. He was able to avoid all the exchanges. He was on the outside all fight long, jab, move, 1-2. He was very smart and methodical. Khamzat Chimaev is not like this. So if Nate Diaz can create openings for himself against Conor McGregor, against Leon Edwards, against Jorge Masvidal, so I believe in a tough dogfight, Nate Diaz will find his way to connect with a few shots that could potentially rattle him, and who knows what can happen from there. This fight, however, in my opinion, can only be won by Nate Diaz potentially submitting Khamzat Chimaev, or when he can hurt Chimaev when he is tired and gets dropped. But these are very far-fetched scenarios, but I believe throughout the majority of the potential ways of victory, I believe the underlying factor will be Chimaev being tired or getting hit with a lot of damage, something like that, and then folding into a certain amount of pressure and not falling into a submission. That is really the only way that I believe Nate Diaz can win, and these are those 5 reasons of it. I do believe that in this matchup, Chimaev is going to be the heavy favorite, so be sure to wait on my video talking about the 5 reasons why Khamzat Chimaev can defeat Nate Diaz. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Leave in the comment section down below who you think will win come fight night. As always, in the end, only time will tell what will truly happen. For now, I've been Keenan from Keenan KTV, signing off. Later.